Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and thank you very much for taking some time out of your day to spend with me on the video here. And we're going to be talking about how all these studies that you read about, how bass see colors, I think most of them are wrong. Based upon my own experience in bass fishing and my conversations with other bass anglers, I want to sort of get into this and give you my opinion on it, how I just don't agree with with these studies. Not only the studies on how bass see colors, but a lot of the sort of like what is called the expert scientific studies on bass behavior. And I am always one that I go by scientific data and reality. I am a believer in science, but there's some type of a disconnect from what I've seen about the people that study bass in terms of their behavior and what they do versus the real world applications to it. And this is something that I don't take lightly. I'm not saying this just to hear myself talk. I'm saying this because in my experience in bass fishing, some of the things like color, based from my own experience about bass and color, based upon what I see, the reports and data that some of these, so-called experts put out, they don't coalesce. There's no correlation to it. So I want to get into that in today's episode. Also, guys, before we get started, just a quick invitation. I'd like to invite everybody, if you like the content here on Intuitive Angling, to please consider hit that subscribe button. Free and easy to do so. And of course, the plane goes by every video. It's either a weed eater, a blower, a mower, a plane, a train. Every time I do a video, they'll show up just mysteriously. But anyway, guys, also, if you want to go to the next level with Intuitive Angling, you can become a channel member, and channel members get extra videos, private videos that are not seen by the public every single week. I do 2 of them, along with some access to my email address if you're fishing questions. So if you want to become a member, guys, just go to my YouTube homepage, click that little thing that says join, or go into the video description. So I really appreciate that. Okay, guys, one of the things that we were talking about this, I had a on the water lesson yesterday up at Stockton Lake, and we were talking with the guys I was fishing with about color a little bit, and this got brought up, and it made me think about these studies that you hear about on how bass see color. I think Berkeley does a bunch of studies like this, and they call them fishery scientists or whatever. But most of these studies that I have seen or read, they said, well, color doesn't matter because bass can only see red or black or whatever. I mean, I can't remember the palette that they talked about, but they're talking about how different depth ranges and that type of stuff. And in general, bass don't see colors. They see 1 or 2 different colors, and that's about it. And, and that's just the reality of the situation, guys. I do not agree with this whatsoever, because if that was the case, the only thing that you would need is like red or green colors or whatever the colors that they say that the bass can see. You wouldn't need anything else. That is simply not true. I have seen myself, color plays a massive role, and bass react to colors, a wide range of colors, unbelievably. So I don't understand how, you can come to this assumption that bass can only see, a few different colors, because when you talk about generating strikes from the factors that generate a strike, which is, your lure speed, retrieve cadence, lure profile, the color of the lure, all the variables that go into that. Why wouldn't you just need 1 or 2 colors and then rely on all the other factors that generate strikes that don't have anything to do with color? But guys, as somebody that has fished for 50 years and seen on the water real-time bass fishing about how bass react to different stimulus that causes them to strike, I put color at definitely in the top 2. I mean, from what I have seen in my own bass fishing, I put like lure profile got to be close to number 1, and then the second is a toss-up between lure color and like how a bait moves or vibrates or displaces water through its movement. Those 3 factors, from my own personal experience, have a lot to do with generating strikes. Now, here's the thing that I can tell you about color. It's like there is a combination of two different things. Number one, there are some basic foundational factors that determine lure color as far as what the best color and how fish react to it. And then closely to that, there's an element within the bass that does not make sense a lot of times in terms of what you think traditionally is good color. So traditionally, for example, if you have muddy water or dirty water, you're going to want brighter, flat colors like, pearls, whites, chartreuses, something like that. That's pretty much a given. I have seen reproducible results with those type of colors in dirty water. And then as you get to sort of the mid-range water color, say you get between 1 to 3 foot, there's a wide range of lure colors that can possibly work during those conditions. And then for the most part, when you get into clear water, your translucent, more natural colors are more effective. And you can correlate this between soft plastics or hard plastic, but there is a direct correlation between water clarity and the most consistent lure colors for fish to bite. So if a bass can only see gray or red or whatever they say it is, then that you wouldn't have those reproducible results from such a wide range of colors. And then on top of that, when you're factoring in colors in terms of the colors the bass react to, you also have this combination of your light intensity that you have, because the correlation between water temperature and light intensity is just as important as the water clarity. Because if you got varying degrees of light intensity, like for example, right now it's a cloudy sky, and say for example, you and I were out fishing right now and the water visibility is 2 feet, we got cloudy conditions. If we went out tomorrow and the water visibility was 2 feet and we had a bluebird sky, it's going to create a completely different look in the water with the bait that you're fishing, because that light intensity and the light penetration is greater with the cloud conditions we have out there. So you've got this mix between water clarity and the type of clouds and the intensity of clouds, because all clouds aren't created equal. It's like you can have overcast that we have right now. I consider this just a moderately overcast day, but you can also have a heavy overcast day, or you can have a light overcast day with sort of like the thinner clouds. And then the same with sun. You can have 25% cloud coverage, you can have bluebird skies, you can have 75% cloud coverage. Every one of those cloud conditions in relationship to the water clarity and in relationship to the sunlight angle, because the sun is at a different angle at different times of the year, and in correlation with the wind speed, because when you've got wind that breaks up the water surface and you've got sunlight coming in at different angles, you got different water clarities, and all that mixed together, it creates a different look in the water to the fish. If it sounds complicated, it is complicated, because bass fishing has so many variables, and I always say it's the most difficult sport in the world, and this is one prime example of it. So here's what I've seen. You've got that baseline that I just talked about of just the basic colors that work good under those conditions. But I have seen, out of all the times that I fish, this baseline works probably about 75% of the time. You're going to see consistency within this color baseline that much. 25% of the time, you can throw that out the window completely. I have seen times where I've been in muddy water and I fished with people that don't know any better. They don't understand, they don't know what I just told them, and they will try something that goes completely against what I just told you, and they'll catch fish. I've seen that over and over again. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. So from that standpoint, there's so much about bass and color that we don't understand. It's not as simple as you hear some, fisheries scientists or whatever, doing experiments or trying to compile data on fish, saying that bass can only see 2 or 3 different colors. That is an oversimplification of it, the same way it's an oversimplification of me explaining to you this baseline. Now, the baseline that I have developed is from my own experience on the water, fishing 50 years, day in, day out, season after season after season, and seeing the same things either work or not work. I'm not sure about the lab, the experiments they do with bass. But in terms of correlation, as far as actually putting bass in the boat, you need to pay attention to color, because I have seen it make a huge difference. I'm not talking just colors, I'm talking about also variations in colors. Because say for example, you've got a blackback chartreuse sided crankbait. Based upon how that chartreuse is applied to that bait, it can either be a bright chartreuse, it can be a faded chartreuse, it can be a little bit of a see-through chartreuse, it can have flake in it. Same with shad. You know, your shad pattern, you can have a translucent shad pattern, you can have a metallic shad pattern, you can have a flat finish shad pattern. There's a lot of variations to each particular color, and I have seen it, guys. I have seen bass be so sensitive to different type of colors that I can't even tell you how many times I've seen that. I've seen times when I'm fishing crankbaits where they want a translucent color shad and that's all you can get a bite on. I've seen times fishing where they want a foil finish, like a metallic finish side on a crankbait, or you won't get a bite. And I've seen times where they want a flat, matte finish, or you can't get a bite. And like I said, it's like there's so many different, possibilities. It's like, where do you begin with? And you have to begin with that baseline that I talk you with. And then you just have to experiment. And that's one of the things about bass fishing to remember, is that you can have this foundational knowledge that we try to teach, or I try to teach you here on the channel, but ultimately you have to listen to what the bass want. And that only comes through experimentation. So one of the things that I always talk about in my videos is don't be afraid to use your own creativity and your own imagination when you're experimenting with colors. If you think something is going to work, just give it a try for a few minutes. It's not going to hurt anything to just to try it for 15 minutes and see if it doesn't or doesn't work, because that's how you develop new colors and new techniques. And I've talked a lot about here on the channel where I have a lot of lures that I have people custom paint for me. I'll have an idea like for a lure color, and when I give them to these people to paint them, sometimes they don't turn out the way I want them. Sometimes it's impossible for them to match the color palette that I'm looking for exactly. And I have had baits out there, guys, where they send them back to me and I'm like, this looks like a piece of crap. This I cannot believe that I just paid somebody $10 or $15 to paint this lure and it's nothing like I want. And then I'll go out and rip fish on them, because it's just like, you don't know what the bass want. And I'll leave you with one final thing as far as color goes. One of the things that I have seen about color in bass is that there is no rhyme and there's no explanation to it whatsoever. And the number one thing, almost above anything else in color, is to give them a color that they've never seen before. And don't use colors that you see hanging up on the pegboard in tackle stores very much, because if you go into tackle stores, you're going to see what is the best sellers. They're going to put the best selling colors up there. That's what everybody buys. That's what the fish see all the time. So if you go to a big box tackle store like, Bass Pro Shop or Walmart or something, and you see all the main colors that they have on there, you're basically picking out something that hundreds of thousands of other anglers are showing the fish. Always try to use lure colors or experiment with lure colors that the fish have never seen before. It doesn't have to make sense. You can have something that looks absolutely like crap in the water, and just the fact that the bass have never seen it before makes a huge difference. And that's why I have a lot of lures custom painted, and that's why I modify my lures a lot. I carry about 10 different colors of fingernail polish in the boat with me, and I'll modify and put color on my lures with fingernail polish, because I know this is not a color that anybody can get. It gives me confidence that I know that. The fish have never seen it, and I've seen it work over and over again. So main thing, guys, the side of this video, when somebody says that bass can only see gray or red or something like that, not true. Whether it be true or not, I'm not saying that it's a complete lie, but what I'm telling you out there is bass react to colors more than just gray or red. They react significantly to almost every color on the pattern, on the palette out there. So just experiment, stay open-minded. Don't listen to, all the people that say just it is like this and it's nothing like that. I'm telling you, you know, even though I put some very strong opinions out about fishing, I always reference it by saying, you know, you got to experiment and you never know what the bass want. And that's the same with color, it's same with lure profile, it's same with lure retrieve, lure cadence, all the variables that, you know, actually will generate a strike. So anyway, I hope it helps out, guys. We'll talk later.